That is a pair of 1978 Dana 60s. That is the front, the one I have been looking for forever. Around 3 years ago, I dragged home this Kingpin Dana 60 to swap into my YJ. So I thought I would go through and take a little snippet out of each of the 19 or so videos that I did from start to finish on this and just put it all in one place so you can see the whole thing in hopefully about 20 minutes. So hope you guys enjoy it. All this shit's getting chopped off of here. She's a one owner, low miles, only driven to church on Sundays, bud, I promise. Jesus Christ. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this truss yet. I don't like it that much, but it would save me a ton of work. Well, this axle did come with a lot of stuff. Most of the stuff that was welded on was very poorly done, so I'm just cutting it all off and starting fresh. On the flip side, it had a ton of good parts like reed knuckles. It had the 513 gears that I needed already, so there were a lot of upsides too. It also came with full hydro steering, but I thought it was pretty poorly done. And I still drive my Jeep on the street, so I wanted to stick with a steering box. Although, as you'll see later, I could have saved myself a lot of headache by keeping it. Oh, that's not chooched up or anything. It's a good thing I'm putting a box locker in here and resetting up these gears. And we're finally gonna take these caps off. We're gonna start taking the outers apart so I can pull the shafts out and get this carrier out of here, start working on cleaning it. I believe those pinion marks on that locker are from an old gear set, because the gears that were in here, while they were a little bit rusty, they cleaned up pretty well, but there was no signs of chipping or damage on them, so I wasn't too worried about it. There we go. Today we're going to make some setup bearings out of the old bearings. I got this clamshell bearing puller from Vevor, and this thing is absolutely amazing for pulling your bearings off your pinion and your carrier without damaging them. I'm going to leave a link down below to get one if you guys are interested. They're super worth the money. And then I went ahead and measured out all my carrier shims, so I think that's a good jump off point for me to set the new ones up with. This is the new aux locker carrier that we're going to be using. Really, the purpose of this video was just to make these setup bearings and even the race, because it makes it so much easier when it comes time to do your gears if you can just pop the bearings on and off to change your shims without having to pull everything back apart the hard way. And basically all you have to do to make that work is just keep slowly grinding away at the surface until it becomes a slip fit, and then it's just money from there. The main goal of this one was just to finish cleaning off everything off the axle, get it down to bare metal. We eventually welded the axle tubes at the end, and I did kind of mock up and pitch a weird steering idea. I'm not really going to go into it here, but ultimately we didn't end up doing that, but it was kind of cool thinking about it. So in these videos there was a lot of ideas that I pitched that I did end up doing, and a lot of weird things I tried that I didn't end up doing. But if you want to see the details of all that, there's going to be links like down in the comments and everything to this playlist that has all the full videos, and I could even put links to each individual video. You can go back and check these out in detail, and the goal I had during this was just, I'm going to show all the stuff that everybody else skips, and that's kind of why it took so long to do this in the first place. During this axle build, I took several really long breaks that I didn't need to take. I'm talking months at a time with no progress, and this was the first video back after taking a huge break from this thing. And the main goal was just to get the knuckles off and really start coming up with a plan as far as what parts, what steering arms, and what exactly I was going to be doing with this thing. And ultimately, this is where I discovered that old kingpins are incredibly difficult to get out, and I tried everything I could think of. What ended up working was taking the portaband and making a relief cut right under the shoulder, as close as I could get to the axle C. Made a cut all the way around, and that just relieved all the strain off of it, and they popped right out. Those things are torqued to 600 foot-pounds from the factory. Son of a bitch. Well, there you have it. I believe that's the winning method right there. These go to 600 foot-pounds plus Loctite. Steering arms. Look at that. You are getting sleepy. Very sleepy. Now you don't necessarily have to replace the kingpins, but I just decided, since mine had a little bit of wear marking on them, if I'm putting this thing in my Jeep, I wanted everything to be fresh. So it was a lot of work getting them out, but I think it was worth it. My leafs need to mount up about 1 inch narrower, half an inch on each side than what's on this axle, so we put the new perch on, and then I had to weld in the old hole so I could re-drill it for the new one. See that mark right there in the dimple is where we're going to be drilling. The biggest issue I've been having with this thing is just debating on utilizing what's left of the old truss or cutting it off and starting new. I finally decided I'm just gonna build off of what's there. Get a pretty complete piece up to there, trace it onto the cardboard, make some reference marks, and then do the same thing that way, put them together, test fit it on cardboard. It actually looks pretty good. There's a little bit of air gaps here and there. I was suffering from a healthy dose of decision paralysis on this truss between deciding on starting from scratch or using what was there, and that was actually a big part of the delay and why I didn't work on this thing for a while. Ultimately, I decided to build on what was there. If I could go back and start over, I would probably redesign it because I don't really like how it looks and wish I would have made it a little smaller in a few areas for clearance reasons. Overall, man, I am super stoked at how this turned out. It's nothing fancy. It's nothing like eye-catching, eye-popping. It doesn't look innovative or cool, but it does the job that I wanted it to do, and it's strong as hell, and I'm happy it's done. I was able to get over to the spring shop and get my U-bolts made. You can see these are two different widths. We got 3-inch and 4-inch, and the reason for that is 2 of them have to go around this casting. You can see I made this little relief in the casting just so that the bottom of the U-bolt, the round part, has just a little notch to nest itself in so that it doesn't like hit a rock and pop off of the casting and then come loose and cause a bunch of problems. We all know paint is super critical, and then you can see here I decided to cut off some chunks of pipe and make little skid plates so that I don't break off the grease zerks in the lower kingpins by hitting a rock and stuff, and I thought that was a pretty useful mod. Let's give her a shot. Oh my. Looks like a night of drinking in Taco Bell. So all this stuff's kind of been a taste of, you know, the things that most people don't show you when they're building an axle. You know, you watch these other YouTube videos and an axle appears and 5 minutes later they've got it under the Jeep and it's 4-linked R80, and that's cool and all for people with short attention spans, but sometimes it's nice to just see all the little bullshit that goes into putting one of these together. We're gonna do the gears and put the locker in this Dana 60, finally. A lot of weird numbers, 22, 20, 19, 17, 15. Potato, hot potato, hot potato. Those go right there, and now this pinion can get inserted into the axle. Showing about 4 to 4.5. Here is the first initial pattern. It honestly doesn't look too bad. Remember, kids, there are no mistakes, there's just happy little accidents. Now that that's about where I want it, I gotta swap out all the carrier bearings to the actual ones and press them on. Same with the outer pinion bearing and that inner pinion race. Recheck everything, and if I'm happy with it, then we can knock the seal in and put the actual pinion nut on there. So this is the first video back after another one of those huge breaks I took. The problem was the next step was pulling the old axle out, and it was wheeling season, so I waited till that was done and we got to start on pulling this Dana 44 out of here.
My favorite thing, the hover Jeep.
Choose your weapon. I decided to take the opportunity while there's no axle in here to cut off the old track bar bracket, sway bar brackets. I'd cut them off before, but I left a bunch of jagged pieces and stuff, and there's no better time to get that stuff cleaned up.
Oh, it just hit me right in the neck. That's so great. Oh yeah, that's what we're after. I'm at a decision point here because I can't do anything else till I decide if I'm moving these spring hangers or not. If I got to do all that work, I'm only doing it once. I'm not going to do it and then decide I want to stretch later.
And if you can't tell by this next thumbnail, it only took me about 1 beer's worth of thinking to decide, yep, we were going to go ahead and stretch the thing even more. I know, it's a can of worms.
We cooked them in there.
So I got to looking at the Jeep, realized I had to take the bumper off to be able to cut these old shackle hangers off. So unhooking everything I needed to do for that. I'm sure somebody's going to complain about all the music I'm putting in this, but you got to realize I'm cutting these full-length videos down to little clips, and then some of them are sped up. And what that does is it destroys any audio it might have had. So then I got 20 minutes of silence, and I can't have that, so I put some music there. I may have a big mouth, but there's no way I'm going to talk for 20 minutes straight.
I need a longer one of these.
That's what she said.
We're gonna get at least some of the spring hangers mounted and welded on.
Here goes nothing. Let's hope I got it right.
The other spring mounts finally arrived.
They're laser cut and they all key together, and they're 1/4-inch plate. I freaking love Moto-Built, so I shouldn't be surprised that these are sweet. So you can see that's about where I need to trim it out. You know that old saying, measure twice, cut once? I'm more of a measure nonce, cut twice, because you just guessed kind of a guy, so we got something to fix. We're gonna weld these together before they go on the Jeep. So that's everything. Now we can just weld the snot out of this, and hopefully it'll fit when I'm done.
I clamped a piece of square tube in there to simulate the frame and the sleeves on the bolts in there so that none of it would move around while I'm welding, but one of them still shifted a little bit. I had a huge fight getting it to fit the frame, but you'll have to watch the full video for that.
It's pretty daggone close. She fits. So I knew that when I moved the back hangers forward 2.5 inches and I only moved these forward 1.5, that it was going to increase my shackle angle. But I didn't think it was going to get that drastic.
This is kind of the moment that everything had been waiting on. I didn't really want to make the axle any heavier than it needed to be till it was bolted into the Jeep. So I left out the outers and the axle shafts and the hubs, and all that stuff would have just make it even harder to get in there. And so now all of a sudden I got this thing bolted in, and I've got more work than I can even think of to do. And so I was just chipping away at everything I could.
It's a thing of beauty.
RCVs can be kind of a pain in the butt to put together.
Somebody on the good old hardline crawlers forum suggested boiling it for 30 seconds. I think that's in. Oh yeah. Nothing like a good old 2-day detour to keep you humble, right? And this is what we are replacing those spindle bearings with. These are just nylon sleeves that go in place of these. So unfortunately, we're at one of those steps. I have to do a bunch of more work to be able to do any more assembly. I'm gonna pound these spindle bearings out, and we're gonna give this thing a Craigslist rebuild. What's that mama always told me? It ain't dumb if it works. Might as well do the same thing to these hubs. They need a little more work. I knocked the erases out of them, but they are filthy inside. It's kind of complicated, all the crap that goes on these. This is where you'd put your brake bracket on, and then the spindle. I'm not using the 4 dual piston calipers. I got a GM brake conversion, brackets, spacers, doodads, and doohickeys, and dingle hoppers, and all the things. I don't feel like it should be this hard. Press them through the rotor and through the hub. Nice and lightweight. Done. Oh, yep. Right there, and point it straight across. And then I'll feed this over to you. Got it?
Yep.
So you see this one, but this one you gotta hold that up. 46.25, 46.25.
Write it down.
46.25, 46.25.
I intended on doing plug welds on all these, but I kind of welded the first one before I got to it, so only one of them got plug welds.
Well, I invested in a left and a right hand tap, and I'm sure I'm glad I did, because this was actually quite tough to get through the second half of this thing. You finally get a visual representation of what I was going for with this. I kind of forgot this was going to be a problem, and I don't know how I'm going to solve it.
This interference is the whole reason that I put the tie rod behind the axle, because I knew it was never going to play nice with the tie rod, but I wasn't thinking that it was going to just hit the diff itself.
What we have here is a Chevy Astro steering box. It is basically the same as the YJ box. It just has reversed internals. I want to show you guys kind of what the drastic angle of this drag link would be. So can you just see how far forward it has to come? This steering box, they say you should have 7 inches of stretch, and I'm sitting at about 4. Stuff from Surplus Center came. Got my 2 fittings and my ram. So it's pretty much gonna go back in here somewhere. You see my dilemma, I need to lose that much height. All right, so these are gonna be my first 2 tabs.
It's already a little bit unorthodox to put the steering behind the knuckle. I mean, plenty of people have done it, but it's kind of old school. But putting hydro assist back there was a challenge I wasn't ready for, and I succeeded. There's a margin of error about the thickness of a piece of paper at the end.
I'm almost to full lock on the steering box, but I am running into the bolt head with the tie rod, which oh, we have clearance. We have clearance, Clarence. Check her out. The washer just barely clears underneath, and that bit that I shaved down. The shock towers have arrived. What we're doing for positioning is I've got the laser set up. I've got it sighted down the center of the axle, and I'm just gonna make a bunch of reference marks, and then I'm gonna have to do some cutting.
If you look at the frame where I'm going to mount this, you can see it's on an angle, and rather than try to modify the tower so the tower can be straight up and down, straight above the axle, that's just not going to work for me. I'm just going to place the tower right on that frame and move it forward and back until it centers up with where the axle's sitting, and that's how I picked the location of it. And it actually butted perfectly up against this line on the frame where it's double plated.
We've got our hole. I just kind of went for it this time. I'm gonna catch the other side up, and then we gotta work on the one that goes here. I think it looks good. I ground that bolt head down real thin. I have not steered it yet, but if that doesn't clear, we got problems, because that barely sticks out farther than the ram itself. The next thing I'm gonna do is I gotta re-secure these brake lines, and then I'll go ahead and transfer that brake line to here. I do have to run an axle vent down to the axle, and then I need to run an air line down there for the locker. Then I have to get down in here and find a new place to mount this. I'm trying to figure out what to do with these hoses, and I just can't find a good way to get them down here, because they just won't fit through any of these gaps. So if I just back that off, then I can turn that, and then they get quite a bit closer together.
I was trying to run them out the bottom because I was worried if I put them on the top, they were going to come up and smack the fittings on the oil pan or the frame.
Now, I just steered this to lock. I just want you to look at this clearance on this tie rod and that bolt that I shaved down. I mean, do you see how slim of a margin that is? Sitting here just trying to make everything clear. I just ground the rest of that U-bolt off so that this bolt head will clear it. The ram is hitting the corner of the truss right here. Bunch of grinding, and now that ram clears. One of the things I knew to do is get this line up in here and do the locker. A very simple manual air switch So I could just thread this in right there and just reach down and boop, boop, until I have more time to do the wiring up right. Holy cow, has this been a long time coming. Just look at it. Steering remarkably feels way lighter than it did on the Dana 44. We made it to Badlands with the YJ. We're gonna see if this piece of crap YJ holds together or not.
Like usual, after some big upgrades, really my plan was to just go out here and just drive the Jeep a little bit, not do anything too stupid crazy, flex it out, jag some clearances, yada yada yada. Then I ran into my friends at this little climb and decided this was the first thing I was going to do instead. It's kind of funny because I pulled this thing out of the garage for the first drive almost 3 years to the day from the very first clip you saw where I brought the axle home.
I don't want to keep sending it that far.
But in reality, I worked on it for probably well under a year because I took 2 full 8-month, like spring, summer, fall off from doing it and a couple other breaks that were 3 or 4 months long. And on top of that, I probably spent just as much time sitting here at my computer editing all the videos I made of it. And speaking of that, I want to say I've probably got 30 plus hours into this video, so I really hope you guys are enjoying it. If this is your first time here, you should really subscribe to the channel. We get into all kinds of weird stuff around here and post a lot of interesting videos. And even if you're already subscribed, go down to the pinned comment down below. There's a playlist that has the full videos from everything that I put in this video. And I know that most of you, or some of you, have watched them all, and most of you probably haven't. Go back and check some of them out. There's so much good information that I just could not fit into this video. There was no way to get it all in. And here's a little bonus clip from our second day of the Shakedown Run. Things got kind of rowdy that day. Thanks for watching, guys. I'm sure you guys have heard of Sunday Funday, but have you heard of Send It Sunday? It's where we stop giving a crap because we don't need our rigs to last the whole weekend anymore, so we just do stupid stuff. Enjoy.
Here, I'm gonna pull your leg up. You have to take the pressure off the belt, otherwise you won't have it. Wrap your elbow around it.